Today, my guest is Emin Huseynov, the director of the Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety. Welcome to our studio. Thank you. Emin Huseynov attended the World Press Freedom Day event organized by UNESCO in Washington. What were the main issues discussed? Were there any statements regarding Azerbaijan? A joint appeal about Azerbaijan was voiced in the event held by UNESCO from 1 to 3 May. The appeal was joined by international human rights organizations including Article 19, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Reporters Without Borders, Norwegian Human Rights House, and as well as the RFS and Media Rights Institute from Azerbaijan. The appeal was addressed to the UNESCO General Director Irina Bokova. The main call was for the release of Einullah Fethullayev, imprisoned journalist in Azerbaijan. I had a meeting with Mrs. Bokova on May 1st. In the meeting, I requested her to keep in attention the situation of freedom of expression in Azerbaijan and to make calls for Azerbaijani authorities using her mandate. I also asked her to speak to UNESCO envoy in Azerbaijan, First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva. Bokova said that she will not spare efforts to improve the freedom of expression in Azerbaijan. Freedom House held another event on May 4th. The event discussed the situation of freedom of expression in the world. We had meetings there as well. A declaration was adopted in Washington. It was titled 21st Century Media, New Frontiers, New Barriers. What's implied under new media, new frontiers, and new barriers? How can it be associated with Azerbaijan? UNESCO is a United Nations agency, and the declaration adopted in Washington emphasized that the activity on internet, social networks are equal to freedom of expression. Therefore, it shouldn't be restricted, and on the contrary, it needs improvement. It also emphasized that United Nations and UNESCO shall contribute to the development of freedom of internet. The declaration also says that the freedom of expression part of the Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights should be adjusted to new media. Will there be changes? The new media includes online mass media outlets, social networks, blogs, and so on. The international community, including the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, Council of Europe, the European Union, and also United Nations, are taking steps to pass a Universal Convention. Ahead of this, in Strasbourg, an international event was held on freedom of expression, and a similar event will be held in Serbia in end May. UNESCO's mandate is improvement and protection of freedom of expression in the world. The bloggers Emin Milli and Adnan Hadzadeh were also invited to the event. But why didn't they attend and join the event via Skype? Though the bloggers were officially invited to the event, they failed to attend because they cannot leave the country. When the bloggers were released, everyone welcomed it. But we also stated that the bloggers will be in house detention still, which doesn't mean that they are free. Today, they have been deprived of their right to movement. You've also met with Freedom House Executive Director David Kramer. Which issues did you discuss in your meeting? Kramer has many times visited Azerbaijan and knows the country very well. What does he think about Azerbaijan? I thanked to him for their determined and objective position. I told him that the local civil society and media need international support. He said that they are following the situation in Azerbaijan. The international organizations don't only make statements. They also work with the governments of their country. Freedom House has very close ties with the US Congress. The Helsinki Committee of the US Congress had also made statements about the concerning situation of freedom of expression in Azerbaijan. Freedom House and other international human rights organizations, they carry out many important activities to prevent separation of freedom of expression in Azerbaijan. The Washington conference was attended by over 200 representatives from different countries. Were there any country similar to Azerbaijan, where a journalist like Einullah Fethullayev is held in prison despite being recognized as prisoner of conscience? Fetullayev's case is known to everyone. The leaders of other freedom of expression organizations have convinced the government that Fethullah must be released. Fetullah's case is a precedent case where, though a journalist has been acquitted by European Court of Human Rights, he is still in prison. It's a message to the world community that there's almost no freedom of expression in Azerbaijan. The human rights organizations informed that the Ministerial Cabinet of the Council of Europe has set June as a deadline for Azerbaijani government to settle the issue of Fethullah. Let's return to the Washington Declaration. New media, new frontiers, new barriers. What are the new barriers? It was stated that the cyber activists face serious pressures in their countries after Arabian revolutions. Today there is a need to defend them. The declaration's essence lies in the fact that they should be protected by international legal documents. It will be applied to all United Nations member states. Specifically in Azerbaijan, bloggers Emin Milli, Adnan Hadzizadeh were detained in 2009 and released later. Jabbar Savalanlı, another blogger, is in prison now. Today, Bekhtiyar Hacıyev and Jabbar Savalanlı are arrested cyber activists. A criminal case has been launched against Elnur Mecilli, and he is searched via Interpol. His family is facing pressures. His parents lost their jobs. There are huge pressures. Web activists are summoned to law enforcement agencies and interrogated. Thank you for coming to our studio. Today my guest was Emin Huseynov, the director of the Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety.